Hello there. Welcome back to another episode of TNTM the show lore. I'm here talking nerdy to you about my origin story as well as TNTM the show, as I am essentially TNTM the show. I'm going to be talking about Star Wars. I don't really know when I watched Star Wars originally. I was born in 86, so obviously Star Wars already existed. I do remember having in high school the boxed trilogy, and I still have it to this day. It's in my nerd cave. I watched and loved the originals. Absolutely loved them. Beginning to end, I love them. And I saw myself as a Luke Skywalker for a long time with just having the original trilogy. Then the prequel trilogy came out. Like I said, I was in high school. Anyways, I do remember having the dual blade lightsaber, the Darth Maul one. And no, I wasn't a Sith, but that lightsaber was epic. Is epic. That battle is epic. I do think it could have been better, but it was still epic. And it could have been better by having some interrogation in there. Like, yeah, it was epic. The fighting was like nothing we'd seen before. And yeah, even some interrogation could have led nowhere. But it still should have been there because that's the thing is the original trilogy, the battles were about getting inside the mind of your opponent and destroying them from within. Because the first time that Luke faces Vader, he demolishes him. I feel like mentally first and then physically, but kind of both. They kind of go hand in hand, pun intended. Intend your puns. Don't be afraid. And then continues on. He faces him again. Better, but still didn't entirely win that fight. Even the first fight with Obi-Wan and Vader was like clearly a mental thing. Like he knew exactly what he was doing. He had reunited the twins, twins, and got them to run away, and that was it. And then to become, it was like, yeah, it's easier to be a mentor through the Force. And then he was like, I know where Yoda is. Just send him to Yoda. When Vader faces off against Luke again, and he's like, "Oh, Obi-Wan has taught you well," and like that was a great moment, as well as like when he's like, "Oh, there's another, your sister," and like he loses it, and that was very much like getting inside the head of your opponent. But then it also solidified Luke, where he was like, "You know what? Nope, I'm not going to turn into you. I already am. I already am starting to turn into you, and I don't want to be you completely. We know where that path goes, where that path leads. It's here, and I don't want to be there." Completely throws the lightsaber away. And so it's like he morally wins, but not physically wins. And it's like, it was kind of like an empty win in a way if his dad wouldn't have killed Palpatine. It was just some of that. Like if there would have been more like, who are you? Are you the master? Are you the apprentice? Throwing stuff at them. Like Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan should have been asking these questions. I'm not saying that Maul should have answered. Like, why would you answer any of those things? The exchange makes sense with Vader and Luke and Vader and Obi-Wan and in other battles, but that wouldn't make sense unless they were somehow able to get inside Maul's head and be like, "Oh, obviously you're not the master," and that's obvious, right? Like, why would the master go first? It doesn't make any sense. To even ask that question is like, "But was he the master or the apprentice?" And it's like, why would the master be the one to attack and reveal himself right away? That's stupid. Why wouldn't he send his apprentice? Stupid. To ask the question is to know the answer. Love that. I remember training my brother and being like, "This is how you use the Force. This is how," and like he had a lightsaber as well. And because I remember we were doing it at my grandpa's ranch, like we would just train. I was like training to be a Jedi master, and be like, I'm gonna train my brother like I'm Obi-Wan and he's Anakin. It was crazy. And like I said, my brother's 9 years younger than me. So it was very much like kind of that kind of relationship. And then I feel like to this day we still have like that. How it's this weird father son, brother, mentor mentee relationship, but now it's just brotherly. And so that's great because it was very much like he's not my kid. Like it's not my he's not my responsibility. Like it's not something I've had to come to grasp with myself personally. It was so great to grow up during that time when the prequels were coming out because I absolutely was in love with them. I absolutely was in love with them when they came out. Did I see some flaws still? Yes, I absolutely did see some flaws even as a young boy, but still love them. I mean, like I said, I was in my teenage years. And that's the thing is because the originals were just so well made. There were some inconsistencies there too, some plot holes or whatever. Overall, Star Wars is the best, and it's just gotten better and better. And like Andor is the greatest thing ever, and Rogue One is one of the greatest movies ever, and that's why like it's just there's certain things that have aged with us, some haven't, and that's a good and bad when it comes to Disney Star Wars. Tell me what you think. I want to know. So thank you for watching and listening, my fellow nerds and amigos.